Chapter 1: The Memory Thief. Elliot Carson sat in his small, cluttered office, staring at the holographic display of his latest case file. The flickering blue light cast eerie shadows on the walls, emphasizing the late hour. His eyes, sharp and focused, scanned the details once more. The call from Evelyn Hart had been brief but urgent. She needed his expertise to recover a stolen memory of immense value. Memories had become the new currency, and Elliot was well aware of their worth. People paid exorbitant amounts to relive their happiest moments or to erase their darkest ones. The technology had revolutionized the world, but it had also given rise to a new breed of criminals. Memory thieves were the most dangerous among them, skilled in extracting and manipulating memories for profit. Elliot's thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime. The door to his office slid open, revealing a tall, elegant woman in her late 30s. Evelyn Hart's presence commanded attention. She wore a sleek, black suit that accentuated her sharp features and piercing blue eyes. "Elliot," she greeted him with a nod. "Thank you for meeting me on such short notice." "Ms. Hart," Elliot replied, gesturing for her to take a seat. "I understand the situation is urgent. Please, tell me everything you know about the theft." Evelyn settled into the chair opposite him, her demeanor composed but clearly strained. "As I mentioned on the call, a memory containing crucial research data has been stolen from our secure vault. This data is the final piece we need to complete our latest project, a project that could revolutionize the field of memory technology." Elliot leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. "What exactly does this project entail?" Evelyn hesitated for a moment, then continued. "We've developed a new method of memory integration that could allow individuals to share their experiences in real time. Imagine the possibilities, learning new skills instantly, understanding different perspectives, and even bridging cultural gaps. The potential is limitless." Elliot nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "And this stolen memory contains the key to making it work?" "Yes," Evelyn confirmed. "Without it, our research is incomplete. Worse, if it falls into the wrong hands, it could be weaponized. We can't let that happen." Elliot's mind raced as he considered the implications. The memory trade was already a volatile market, and the introduction of such a powerful technology could tip the scales in dangerous ways. He knew he had to act quickly. "Do you have any leads on who might be behind the theft?" he asked. Evelyn sighed, her frustration evident. "We've reviewed the security footage and conducted internal interviews, but so far, we've come up empty-handed. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. It's almost as if they had inside information." Elliot's eyes narrowed. "An inside job? Possibly," Evelyn admitted. "But we can't be certain. That's why I need you, Elliot. You have the skills and the experience to uncover the truth." Elliot nodded, his resolve firm. "I'll take the case, but I'll need unrestricted access to your facilities and records." "Of course," Evelyn agreed. "Anything you need." With the terms set, Elliot wasted no time. He began his investigation at MEMTECH's headquarters, starting with the security footage. The sleek, high-tech building was equipped with state-of-the-art surveillance systems, but even they had their limitations. As he reviewed the footage, Elliot noticed something unusual. A brief moment of static, barely noticeable, but enough to suggest tampering. He zoomed in on the timestamp and cross-referenced it with the access logs. Sure enough, there was a gap in the records, indicating a possible breach. Elliot's next step was to interview the employees who had access to the vault. He started with the security team, questioning them about their routines and any anomalies they might have noticed. Most of the guards were diligent, but one name stood out: Mark Lewis. He had been on duty during the time of the theft and had a history of disciplinary issues. Elliot decided to pay Mark a visit. The guard's apartment was a modest one in a less affluent part of the city. As Elliot approached the door, he noticed it was slightly ajar. His instincts kicked in, and he drew his weapon, a sleek, compact pistol designed for precision and concealment. He pushed the door open slowly, scanning the room for any signs of danger. The apartment was in disarray, with furniture overturned and papers scattered across the floor. It was clear someone had been searching for something. "Mark!" Elliot called out, but there was no response. He moved further into the apartment, his senses on high alert. In the bedroom, he found Mark lying on the floor, unconscious but alive. A quick examination revealed no serious injuries, just a bump on the head. Elliot called for medical assistance and then began to search the room for clues. In Mark's desk, he found a hidden compartment containing a data chip. Elliot inserted it into his portable scanner, revealing a series of encrypted files. He recognized the encryption as one commonly used in the memory trade black market. It seemed Mark had been involved in something shady, but whether he was a willing participant or a victim remained to be seen. Elliot took the chip and left the apartment, heading back to his office. He needed to decrypt the files and find out what Mark had gotten himself into. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly coming together, but the full picture was still elusive. Back in his office, Elliot worked through the night, using his skills to break the encryption. The files contained transaction records, communications, and a list of names, potential buyers and sellers in the black market. One name stood out: Victor Kane, a notorious memory broker known for his ruthless tactics. Victor Kane operated in the shadows, his true identity hidden behind layers of aliases and front companies. Elliot had crossed paths with him before, and he knew Kane was not someone to be taken lightly. If Kane was involved, it meant the stakes were higher than ever. Elliot knew he had to confront Kane, but he couldn't do it alone. He reached out to an old friend and ally, Detective Maria Vesquez. Maria had connections in the police force and the criminal underworld, and her expertise would be invaluable in taking down Kane. They met at a dimly lit bar in the heart of the city, a place where deals were made and secrets were kept. Maria arrived first, her sharp eyes scanning the room before she spotted Elliot. She approached him with a confident stride, her presence commanding respect. "Elliot," she greeted him with a nod. "It's been a while." "Too long," Elliot replied, offering her a seat. "I need your help, Maria. I've got a lead on a stolen memory, and it points to Victor Kane." Maria's expression hardened at the mention of Kane's name. "That bastard's been causing trouble for years. What's he up to now?" Elliot explained the situation, outlining the details of the theft and the potential implications of the stolen memory. Maria listened intently, her mind already working on a plan. "We'll need to move fast," she said. "Kane's not the type to sit on something this valuable for long. He'll either sell it or use it to gain more power." Elliot nodded. "Agreed. I managed to decrypt some files linking him to the theft. We need to find out where he's hiding and recover the memory before it's too late." Maria leaned back, considering their options. "I have a few contacts who might know where Kane is operating. I'll reach out to them and see what I can find. In the meantime, you should lay low. If Kane catches wind that you're on his trail, he'll come after you." Elliot knew she was right. Kane was a dangerous adversary, and any misstep could be fatal. "I'll stay under the radar. Keep me updated on what you find." With their plan set, Elliot and Maria parted ways. Elliot returned to his office, the weight of the investigation pressing heavily on his shoulders. He knew the path ahead would be fraught with danger, but he was determined to see it through. As he sat at his desk, reviewing the information he had gathered, his thoughts drifted to the stolen memory. The technology it contained could change the world, but in the wrong hands it could be a weapon of unimaginable power. The responsibility to recover it felt overwhelming, but Elliot was no stranger to high-stakes cases. The night passed in a blur of research and planning. Elliot reached out to his network of informants, gathering any intel he could on Victor Kane and his operations. Each piece of information brought him closer to his goal, but it also painted a picture of a man who was always one step ahead. As dawn broke, Elliot felt a renewed sense of determination. The memory thief was out there, and he wouldn't rest until the stolen memory was back where it belonged. The fate of society depended on it, and Elliot Carson was the only one who could stop the looming disaster. Chapter 2. A Past Uncovered. Elliot Carson awoke to the pale light of dawn filtering through the blinds of his office. He had spent the night piecing together the fragments of information he had gathered about Victor Kane and the stolen memory. He rubbed his eyes, took a sip of cold coffee, and prepared himself for another grueling day. Maria Vasquez had promised to use her contacts to find out Kane's whereabouts. While he waited for her to report back, Elliot decided to delve deeper into Mark Lewis's background. The security guard's involvement, whether voluntary or coerced, could provide crucial insights into the case. Elliot accessed the city's public records and pulled up Mark's profile. Mark had a checkered past, a history of minor infractions, financial troubles, and a recent divorce. It was a classic profile for someone vulnerable to manipulation. Elliot needed to understand why Mark would risk everything by getting involved with someone as dangerous as Victor Kane. His first stop was Mark's workplace, the MEM Tech Security Office. He wanted to get a sense of Mark's professional environment and speak to his colleagues. The security office was a stark contrast to the sleek high-tech environment of MEM Tech's main building. It was a small, utilitarian space with monitors lining the walls, each displaying different parts of the facility. Elliot introduced himself to the head of security, a grizzled veteran named Tom Harris. Tom had a no-nonsense demeanor and a piercing gaze that seemed to see right through Elliot. "Mr. Carson, I was told you'd be coming. What can I do for you?" Tom asked, his tone brisk. "I'm looking into Mark Lewis's involvement in the recent theft," Elliot replied. "I need to know more about him, his behavior, and any potential motives he might have had." Tom sighed and leaned back in his chair. Mark was a good guard, but he had his demons. He'd been going through a tough time recently. Divorce, money problems. I could see how he might have gotten mixed up in something shady. "Did you notice anything unusual about his behavior in the days leading up to the theft?" Elliot asked. "Now that you mention it, he did seem a bit jumpy, more on edge than usual. He was always checking his phone, and he took more breaks than he used to. I figured it was just the stress getting to him." Elliot nodded, noting the details. "Did he ever mention any new acquaintances or changes in his routine?" Tom shook his head. "Not that I recall. He kept to himself mostly, but he did mention something about needing extra cash. Said he was looking for side jobs." Elliot thanked Tom for his time and left the security office, his mind racing with possibilities. Mark's financial desperation made him an easy target for manipulation, but it didn't explain why he had been attacked in his apartment. Someone wanted to silence him or find something he had. The data chip Elliot had found in Mark's desk was likely the key. Next, Elliot decided to visit Mark's ex-wife, Laura. She might have insights into Mark's recent activities and any suspicious behavior. He tracked down her address, a modest house in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Laura answered the door, her eyes red from crying. She was a petite woman with auburn hair and a weary expression. "Are you with the police?" she asked, her voice trembling. "No, I'm a private investigator," Elliot replied gently. "I'm looking into what happened to Mark. Can I come in and ask you a few questions?" Laura nodded and stepped aside, allowing Elliot to enter. They sat in the small living room, cluttered with toys and children's drawings. It was clear that Laura was struggling to hold everything together. "Mark and I had our differences, but he loved our daughter," Laura said, her voice breaking. "He would never do anything to put her in danger." "I understand," Elliot said, trying to reassure her. "I need to know if Mark mentioned anything unusual before the incident. Did he talk about new acquaintances, side jobs, or anything that seemed out of the ordinary?" Laura thought for a moment, wiping away tears. "He did mention a new friend, someone who offered him a way to make some quick money. He was vague about the details, but he seemed desperate. I told him to be careful, but he said it was an opportunity he couldn't pass up." "Did he ever give you a name or any other information about this person?" Elliot pressed. "No, he was always secretive about it. He just said it was someone connected to his work. I thought it was just another security gig. But now—" Laura's voice trailed off as she struggled to compose herself. Elliot thanked Laura for her time and assured her he would do everything he could to find out what happened to Mark. As he left her house, his phone buzzed with a message from Maria. "Got a lead on Kane. Meet me at the old warehouse on Pier 34. ****. Elliot's pulse quickened. This was the break he had been waiting for. He drove to the designated location, a derelict warehouse by the waterfront. The area was deserted, the perfect place for clandestine meetings. Maria was already there, leaning against her car with a wary look in her eyes. "Kane's been using this place as a front for his operations," she said. "He's got a meeting scheduled here tonight with some buyers." Elliot nodded, feeling the weight of the situation. "We need to get inside and find out what he's planning. If we can catch him in the act, we might be able to recover the stolen memory." Maria handed Elliot a small device. "This is a scrambler. It'll disrupt any surveillance equipment they have inside. We need to move fast and be ready for anything." They approached the warehouse cautiously, using the shadows for cover. The building was dilapidated, with broken windows and rusted metal doors. Elliot activated the scrambler, and they slipped inside, moving silently through the dark, musty corridors. Voices echoed from a room at the far end of the warehouse. Elliot and Maria crept closer, peering through a crack in the door. Inside, Victor Kane was negotiating with a group of buyers. He was a tall, imposing figure with a sharp jawline and cold, calculating eyes. "The memory you're bidding on is one of a kind," Kane said smoothly. "It contains groundbreaking technology that will give you an unprecedented advantage." Elliot's heart pounded as he recognized the device Kane held. It was the memory module stolen from MEM Tech. He had to act quickly, but they needed to be smart about it. Maria signaled for Elliot to follow her lead. She took out her gun and motioned for Elliot to cover the other entrance. They moved into position, ready to strike. At Maria's signal, they burst into the room, weapons drawn. "Freeze! This is the police!" Maria shouted. The buyers scattered, but Kane remained calm, a sinister smile spreading across his face. Well, if it isn't Elliot Carson. I should have known you'd be the one to track me down." "Hand over the memory module, Kane," Elliot demanded. "This ends now." Kane's smile widened. "I don't think so. You see, I've anticipated this moment." He pressed a button on a small device in his hand, and the room was filled with a high-pitched whine. Elliot felt a searing pain in his head as the scrambler backfired. Kane had outsmarted them, using a counter-scrambler to turn their own device against them. The pain was blinding, but Elliot fought to stay conscious. Through the haze, he saw Maria struggling as well. Kane's goons moved in, disarming them and securing the memory module. "Take them away," Kane ordered. "Make sure they're dealt with properly." Elliot felt himself being dragged out of the warehouse, his vision fading as darkness closed in. The last thing he heard was Kane's mocking laughter, echoing in his mind. He awoke in a cold, damp cell, his head throbbing. Maria was beside him, her face pale but determined. "We're not done yet, Elliot," she said, her voice a mix of pain and resolve. "We'll find a way out of this." Elliot nodded, his mind already working on a plan. They had been captured, but the fight was far from over. He knew they had to escape, recover the stolen memory, and bring Victor Kane to justice. The future depended on it. Chapter 3: The Escape. The cell was cold and damp, a stark contrast to the warmth of the bustling city outside. Elliot Carson and Maria Vasquez were imprisoned, their hope dimming with each passing minute. The walls were concrete, unyielding, and the door was solid steel, secured with an electronic lock. Escape seemed impossible, but Elliot's mind was already working on a plan. Elliot examined the room, noting every detail. The cell was bare except for a small cot and a rusted sink. A single, dim light bulb hung from the ceiling, casting long shadows across the floor. He knew that if they were to escape, they would need to find a way to bypass the electronic lock. Maria, still recovering from the effects of the counter-scrambler, looked at Elliot with determination. "We can't let Kane get away with this," she said, her voice resolute. "We need to get out of here and stop him." Elliot nodded. "We will. But first, we need to figure out how to open that door." He approached the door, examining the electronic lock. It was a high-tech device, but Elliot had encountered similar systems before. He pulled out a small multi-tool from his belt, a relic from his days in the military. The tool had a variety of functions, including a miniature hacking device. Elliot set to work, carefully dismantling the outer casing of the lock. Maria kept watch, listening for any signs of their captors. The minutes ticked by, each one feeling like an eternity. Finally, with a soft click, the lock disengaged. "We're in business," Elliot whispered, pushing the door open cautiously. The corridor outside was dimly lit and eerily quiet. They moved silently, sticking to the shadows as they navigated the labyrinthine passageways of the warehouse. Elliot knew they needed to find their gear and the memory module before making their escape. As they turned a corner, they heard voices approaching. Elliot and Maria pressed themselves against the wall, holding their breath as two guards walked past, deep in conversation. Once the guards were out of earshot, they continued their search. They eventually found a small storage room filled with confiscated items. Elliot's eyes lit up as he spotted their equipment, neatly stacked on a shelf. He quickly retrieved his scanner and Maria's gun, handing it to her with a nod. "We need to find the memory module," Elliot said. "It has to be somewhere close." They continued their search, moving deeper into the warehouse. Finally, they came across a heavily guarded room. Elliot peered through a crack in the door and saw the memory module on a table, surrounded by monitors displaying various data streams. "We need to take out the guards quietly," Maria whispered. "We can't risk raising the alarm." Elliot agreed. They waited for the right moment, then moved swiftly and silently, taking down the guards with precision. Once the room was secure, they entered and approached the table. The memory module was encased in a protective shell, linked to a complex network of wires and circuits. Elliot quickly assessed the situation. "We need to disconnect it without triggering any alarms," he said, carefully examining the setup. Maria kept watch as Elliot worked, using his multi-tool to carefully sever the connections. Each cut had to be precise to avoid setting off any security measures. Finally, the module was free. "We've got it," Elliot said, holding the module up. "Now let's get out of here." They made their way back through the warehouse, their steps quick and silent. Just as they reached the exit, an alarm blared. Their presence had been detected. "Move!" Elliot shouted, pushing Maria ahead of him as they sprinted toward the door. Guards poured into the corridor behind them, shouting orders and firing their weapons. Bullets ricocheted off the walls as Elliot and Maria ducked and weaved, using the environment to their advantage. They burst through the exit, emerging into the cool night air. Elliot's car was parked a short distance away, and they raced towards it, the memory module clutched tightly in Elliot's hand. Elliot started the car and slammed his foot on the accelerator. The tires screeched as they sped away, leaving the warehouse and their pursuers behind. The city lights blurred past as they raced through the streets, heading for a safe location. Once they were a safe distance away, Elliot pulled over and took a deep breath. Maria looked at him, her eyes filled with a mix of relief and determination. "We did it," she said, her voice steady. "We have the memory module." Elliot nodded. "But this is far from over. Kane won't stop until he gets it back. We need to analyze the data and figure out our next move." They drove to a safe house, a small apartment Elliot kept for emergencies. It was modest but secure, with reinforced doors and surveillance equipment. Elliot set up his scanner and connected the memory module, preparing to decrypt the data. As the scanner worked, Elliot and Maria reviewed their plan. They needed to find out exactly what information was stored in the memory module and why it was so valuable. The fate of society could hinge on the secrets it contained. The decryption process took several hours. Finally, the scanner beeped, signaling that the data was accessible. Elliot and Maria gathered around the monitor, their eyes fixed on the screen. The data revealed a groundbreaking technological advancement, a new form of memory storage that could revolutionize the world. But it also contained something more sinister: plans for a device that could manipulate memories on a massive scale, turning people into unwitting pawns. "This is why Kane wanted it," Elliot said, his voice filled with awe and dread. He could control entire populations with this technology. Maria's expression hardened. "We need to stop him. We can't let this fall into the wrong hands." Elliot agreed. They had to act quickly. They needed to expose Kane and his plans to the world, but they also needed to ensure the technology was secured and used responsibly. Their next step was clear. They would gather their allies, expose Kane's operations, and ensure the memory module was used for the betterment of society, not its destruction. The stakes were higher than ever, but Elliot and Maria were ready for the challenge. As they prepared for the next phase of their mission, Elliot felt a sense of determination and purpose. The battle was far from over, but he knew they had the skills, the resolve, and the courage to see it through. Chapter 4: Allies and Adversaries. Elliot and Maria knew they couldn't take down Victor Kane alone. The stakes were too high, and Kane's influence too far-reaching. They needed allies, people who could help them expose Kane's plans and secure the memory module. The first name that came to Elliot's mind was Dr. Evelyn Park, a renowned neuroscientist and an expert in memory technology. Dr. Park had been a mentor to Elliot during his early days as a memory detective. Her work had laid the foundation for much of the technology used in memory trade today. If anyone could help them understand the full implications of the data in the memory module, it was her. Elliot and Maria drove to Dr. Park's lab, located in a secure research facility on the outskirts of the city. The lab was a modern fortress of glass and steel, with tight security and state-of-the-art technology. Elliot flashed his old credentials at the entrance, and they were allowed in after a thorough scan. Dr. Park greeted them in her office, a spacious room filled with books, monitors, and intricate models of the human brain. She was a tall woman with sharp features and an air of authority. Her eyes widened in surprise when she saw Elliot. "Elliot Carson, it's been too long," she said, extending a hand. "What brings you here at this hour?" Elliot shook her hand and got straight to the point. "We need your help, Evelyn. We've uncovered something big, and we don't have much time." He handed her the memory module and began explaining the situation. Dr. Park listened intently, her expression growing more serious with each passing minute. When Elliot finished, she looked at the module with a mixture of awe and concern. "This technology is revolutionary," she said, "but it's also incredibly dangerous in the wrong hands. Victor Kane must be stopped." Maria stepped forward. "We need to expose him, but we also need to ensure this technology is secured and used responsibly. Can you help us analyze the data and devise a plan?" Dr. Park nodded. "Absolutely, but we'll need more than just data analysis. We need evidence that will stand up to scrutiny and allies who can help us take Kane down." They spent the next few hours going through the data in the memory module. Dr. Park's expertise was invaluable, and she helped them understand the full scope of the technology and the potential consequences of its misuse. They compiled the evidence, creating a detailed report that highlighted the dangers and the need for ethical oversight. Elliot knew they needed more support. He reached out to another old friend, Senator James Roberts, a vocal advocate for ethical standards in technology. Senator Roberts had the political clout to bring attention to their findings and rally support. The meeting with Senator Roberts took place in a discreet location, away from prying eyes. The senator was a middle-aged man with a commanding presence and a reputation for integrity. He listened carefully as Elliot and Maria presented their case. "This is a serious matter," Senator Roberts said, his brow furrowed. "If what you're saying is true, Kane's actions could have catastrophic consequences. I'll do everything in my power to help you expose him and secure this technology." With Dr. Park and Senator Roberts on their side, Elliot and Maria felt more confident about their chances. They had the evidence, the expertise, and the political support needed to take down Kane. But they also knew that Kane wouldn't go down without a fight. As they prepared for the next steps, Elliot received a call from one of his informants. It was Leo, a tech-savvy hacker who had helped Elliot in the past. Leo had been keeping an eye on Kane's activities and had some crucial information. "Elliot, I've been digging into Kane's network," Leo said, his voice urgent. "He's planning something big, a demonstration of the memory manipulation technology. It's happening in 2 days at a private event. If we can crash the event and expose him, we might be able to stop him for good." Elliot's mind raced. This was their chance to catch Kane red-handed and bring his operations to light. "Thanks, Leo. Send me all the details you have. We'll be ready." The next 2 days were a blur of planning and preparation. Elliot, Maria, and their allies worked tirelessly to finalize their strategy. They coordinated with Senator Roberts to ensure they had legal backing and media coverage. Dr. Park helped refine their technical approach, and Leo provided the necessary hacking skills to infiltrate Kane's network. The day of the event arrived, and Elliot felt a mix of nerves and determination. They had one shot to take down Kane and secure the future of memory technology. Failure was not an option. The private event was held at an opulent mansion on the outskirts of the city. Kane had spared no expense, and the guest list included influential figures from the worlds of business, politics, and technology. It was the perfect stage for Kane to showcase his new device. Elliot, Maria, and Leo infiltrated the event, posing as guests. Senator Roberts coordinated from behind the scenes, ready to mobilize legal forces and media as soon as they had the evidence. Dr. Park stayed in her lab, ready to provide technical support. As the guests mingled and enjoyed the lavish surroundings, Elliot kept a close eye on Kane. The memory broker was in his element, charming the attendees and building anticipation for his demonstration. Elliot's pulse quickened as Kane took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," Kane began, his voice smooth and confident, "tonight, you will witness a breakthrough that will change the world. This device," he held up a sleek, futuristic gadget, "allows for unprecedented control over human memory. Imagine the possibilities." Elliot signaled to Leo, who began hacking into the mansion's security system. They needed to capture footage of the demonstration and disrupt it at the right moment. Maria stayed close, ready to act if things went south. Kane activated the device, and the large screen behind him displayed a series of images and data streams. The audience watched in awe as Kane demonstrated the device's capabilities, manipulating memories in real time. Elliot knew it was time. He nodded to Maria, who moved towards the stage, blending in with the crowd. Leo sent a signal to Dr. Park, who initiated a countermeasure program they had developed. The lights flickered, and the screen began to glitch. "What's happening?" Kane demanded, his calm demeanor cracking. Elliot stepped forward, his voice ringing out over the confusion. "This demonstration is over, Kane. Your device is a weapon, and we have the evidence to prove it." The room erupted into chaos as guests realized what was happening. Security guards rushed to contain the situation, but Elliot and Maria were ready. They fought off the guards, while Leo broadcasted the intercepted data to the media and law enforcement. Senator Roberts made his move, issuing statements and rallying support. Within minutes, the authorities arrived, and Kane's empire began to crumble. Elliot and Maria stood amidst the chaos, their mission accomplished. They had exposed Victor Kane and secured the future of memory technology. It was a hard-fought victory, but it was only the beginning of a new chapter. As they watched Kane being led away in handcuffs, Elliot felt a sense of relief and pride. They had faced incredible odds and emerged victorious. But he also knew that the battle for ethical memory technology was far from over. There would always be those who sought to exploit it for their gain. Elliot looked at Maria, their partnership stronger than ever. "We did it," he said, a smile breaking through his exhaustion. Maria nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "Yes, we did, but there's still work to be done. We need to ensure this technology is used for good, and that means staying vigilant." Elliot agreed. The memory trade world was full of shadows, but with allies like Maria, Dr. Park, and Senator Roberts, he knew they could bring light to the darkness. Their journey was far from over, but for now, they had won a crucial battle. The future was uncertain, but it was theirs to shape. Chapter 5: The Ripple Effect. The takedown of Victor Kane sent shockwaves through the world of memory technology and beyond. News outlets were ablaze with the story of the rogue memory broker who had attempted to wield unprecedented control over human consciousness. Elliot Carson and Maria Vasquez found themselves thrust into the spotlight, hailed as heroes by some and targets by others. As the dust settled, Elliot and Maria knew they needed to stay one step ahead. They returned to the safe house, where they were met by Dr. Evelyn Park, Senator James Roberts, and Leo. The mood was tense but hopeful. They had won a significant battle, but the war was far from over. Elliot began, "We've exposed Kane, but the technology he was developing is still out there. We need to ensure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands." Dr. Park nodded. "I've been reviewing the data we recovered from the memory module. There are still many players in the field who would want to exploit this technology. We need to establish ethical oversight and secure the research." Senator Roberts leaned forward, his expression serious. "I'll push for legislative action, but we need concrete proposals. We have to make sure the public understands the risks and the need for regulation." Leo chimed in, "I can keep tabs on the dark web and underground networks. If anyone tries to sell or replicate this tech, we'll know about it." Maria added, "We also need to reach out to other ethical memory traders and scientists. If we can build a coalition, we'll have a stronger front against anyone trying to misuse this technology." The team agreed on a plan. They would work on multiple fronts: legislative, technological, and public awareness. Elliot and Maria would lead the charge, coordinating efforts and ensuring the technology was used for the greater good. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Elliot and Maria traveled across the country, meeting with scientists, lawmakers, and industry leaders. Dr. Park spearheaded a series of high-profile conferences, bringing together the brightest minds in neuroscience and ethics to discuss the future of memory technology. Senator Roberts worked tirelessly in Washington, drafting a comprehensive bill that would establish strict regulations and oversight for memory trade. He faced fierce opposition from powerful corporations and lobbyists, but with the support of the public and his colleagues, the bill began to gain traction. Leo, true to his word, monitored the digital underground. His vigilance paid off when he uncovered a plot by a rival memory broker, Anton Malik, to develop a black market version of Kane's device. Elliot and Maria acted swiftly, working with law enforcement to shut down Malik's operation and prevent the technology from spreading. Despite their efforts, the road was not without challenges. They faced threats and attempts to discredit their work. Kane's allies were still out there, and they were determined to undermine Elliot and Maria at every turn. One evening, as Elliot was reviewing a report in the safe house, he received an encrypted message from an unknown sender. The message read, "I have information about Kane's network. Meet me at the old factory on Riverside, midnight." Elliot showed the message to Maria and Leo. "It could be a trap," Maria said, her brow furrowed. "But it could also be a valuable lead." Elliot agreed. "We'll go, but we'll be prepared." At midnight, Elliot and Maria arrived at the abandoned factory. The place was dark and deserted, with broken windows and rusted machinery. They moved cautiously, scanning the shadows for any signs of danger. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness. It was a woman, her face partially obscured by a hood. She approached slowly, her hands raised to show she meant no harm. "I'm Isabel," she said, her voice steady but low. "I used to work for Kane. When you exposed him, I realized I had to get out. I have information that can help you." Elliot and Maria exchanged glances. "What kind of information?" Elliot asked. Isabel handed them a data chip. "This contains details of Kane's remaining network, his allies, and their plans. They're still trying to salvage what they can and continue his work. If you want to stop them, you'll need this." Maria took the chip and examined it. "Why are you helping us?" Isabel's eyes hardened. "Kane promised to change the world, but he only brought destruction. I believed in his vision, but now I see the truth. I want to make things right." Elliot nodded. "We'll take it from here." "Thank you." Isabel turned to leave but stopped and looked back. "Be careful. They're ruthless, and they won't hesitate to come after you." With the new information in hand, Elliot and Maria returned to the safe house. They reviewed the data, which provided crucial insights into Kane's network. Armed with this knowledge, they intensified their efforts to dismantle the remnants of Kane's organization. Over the next few months, they coordinated with international agencies to track down and apprehend key figures in Kane's network. Dr. Park continued her advocacy, pushing for global standards and ethical guidelines. Senator Roberts' bill passed through Congress, marking a significant victory for ethical memory technology. The public began to see the importance of their work. News outlets covered their efforts, and public opinion shifted in favor of stronger regulations and ethical oversight. The tide was turning, but the fight was far from over. Elliot and Maria knew they couldn't rest. The memory trade world was vast and ever-evolving. New threats and challenges would emerge, but they were ready to face them head-on. They had built a network of allies, established a foundation of ethical standards, and secured a future where memory technology could be used for the betterment of humanity. As they stood on the balcony of the safe house, looking out over the city, Elliot felt a sense of accomplishment. They had come a long way from the dark days of Kane's reign, but he also knew that their journey was just beginning. "We did good," Maria said, her voice filled with quiet pride. Elliot smiled. "Yes, we did, and we'll keep doing good. We'll keep fighting for what's right." Maria nodded. For a better future. With their mission far from complete, Elliot and Maria prepared for the next chapter of their journey. The road ahead was uncertain, but they were ready to face it together, with courage and determination. Chapter 6: Shadows in the Past. The victory against Victor Kane and his network was significant, but Elliot Carson and Maria Vasquez knew that the shadowy world of memory trade was far from vanquished. New threats loomed on the horizon, and they needed to remain vigilant. As they continued their work, a new lead emerged, one that would force Elliot to confront shadows from his past. One morning, Elliot received a message from an old contact, someone he hadn't heard from in years. The message was brief and cryptic. "Meet me at the usual place. We need to talk." Elliot's heart skipped a beat. Nia Harper, a former colleague and one of the few people he had trusted implicitly, had disappeared without a trace several years ago. She had been investigating a mysterious organization known only as the Consortium, a powerful and secretive group rumored to control significant aspects of the memory trade. "Nia's alive," Elliot told Maria, his voice a mix of relief and concern. "She wants to meet." Maria raised an eyebrow. "Do you trust her?" Elliot nodded. "Ido. If she's reaching out, it means she has something important." The usual place was an old cafe in a quiet part of town, a spot where Elliot and Nia had often met during their early days as memory detectives. Elliot and Maria arrived early, taking a seat at a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. As the minutes ticked by, Elliot felt a mix of anticipation and unease. Finally, the door opened, and Nia walked in. She looked much the same as he remembered, tall, with sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. She spotted them immediately and walked over, sliding into the seat across from Elliot. "Nia," Elliot said, his voice filled with a mix of emotions. "It's been a long time." Nia nodded, her expression serious. "Too long. I'm sorry I had to disappear, but it was necessary. The Consortium is more dangerous than we ever imagined." Maria leaned forward. "What do you know about them?" Nia took a deep breath. "The Consortium is a clandestine organization that has its fingers in every aspect of the memory trade. They control the flow of information, manipulate markets, and have a network of operatives worldwide. They were behind some of the most significant memory-related incidents in the past decade, including several you investigated." Elliot's mind raced. "And Kane? Was he working for them?" Nia nodded. "Indirectly. Kane was one of their many assets. The Consortium uses people like him to achieve their goals while keeping their hands clean. When you took down Kane, you disrupted their operations, but they're regrouping. They're planning something big, and we need to stop them." Maria's eyes narrowed. "Do you have proof?" Nia slid a data chip across the table. "This contains everything I've gathered. It's not complete, but it's a start. We need to act quickly. The Consortium is planning to launch a new initiative that could give them unprecedented control over memory technology." Elliot took the chip, his mind already working on the next steps. "We'll need to analyze this and prepare. Do you know where their next move will be?" Nia nodded. "There's a facility on the outskirts of the city. It's heavily guarded, but it's where they're developing their new technology. If we can get in and gather evidence, we can expose them." The team regrouped at the safe house, where Dr. Park, Senator Roberts, and Leo were waiting. Elliot introduced Nia and briefed them on the situation. They quickly devised a plan to infiltrate the facility, gather evidence, and bring the consortium's activities to light. Leo worked on hacking into the facility's security systems, providing them with detailed blueprints and security protocols. Dr. Park analyzed the data Nia had provided, identifying key areas of the facility that needed to be investigated. Senator Roberts coordinated with law enforcement and media, ready to act once they had the evidence. As they prepared for the operation, Elliot couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The consortium was a shadowy and powerful enemy, and they were stepping into dangerous territory. But with their team and allies, they had a fighting chance. The night of the operation, Elliot, Maria, and Nia approached the facility under the cover of darkness. Leo guided them through the security systems, disabling alarms and cameras as they moved. They reached the perimeter fence and cut through it, slipping inside unnoticed. The facility was a sprawling complex of modern buildings and high-tech equipment. They moved swiftly, avoiding patrols and using the blueprints to navigate. Their target was the central lab, where the consortium's new technology was being developed. They reached the lab and found it heavily guarded. Elliot and Maria took out the guards quietly, allowing Nia to access the lab's main terminal. She plugged in a device that Leo had provided, downloading all the data on the new technology. As the download completed, an alarm blared. Their presence had been detected. Elliot grabbed the device and signaled to Maria and Nia. Time to go! They fought their way out, dodging security forces and using the confusion to their advantage. As they reached the exit, Nia was hit by a stray bullet, and Elliot had to support her as they made their escape. They managed to reach their getaway vehicle and sped away, the facility receding in the distance. Back at the safe house, Dr. Park treated Nia's wound while Leo and Senator Roberts reviewed the data they had gathered. The data was explosive. It detailed the consortium's plans to implement a global network of memory control, using advanced technology to manipulate populations on a massive scale. It was clear and irrefutable evidence of their intentions. Senator Roberts wasted no time. He mobilized his contacts in law enforcement and the media, ensuring that the information was broadcast widely and that the consortium's activities were exposed. The public outcry was immediate and intense, and authorities moved quickly to shut down the consortium's operations and arrest those involved. As the dust settled, Elliot and Maria reflected on their victory. They had dealt a significant blow to the dark forces of the memory trade, but they knew the battle was far from over. The consortium was a powerful enemy, and their defeat was just one step in a much larger struggle. Elliot looked at Nia, who was recovering from her injuries. You risked everything to help us. Thank you. Nia smiled weakly. We're in this together. The fight isn't over, but we've made a difference. Maria nodded. We'll keep fighting for a future where memory technology is used for good, not evil. With renewed determination, Elliot and Maria prepared for the next chapter in their journey. The road ahead was uncertain and fraught with danger, but they were ready to face it, united in their mission to protect the future of memory technology. Chapter 7. The Hunt for the Puppet Master. The exposure of the consortium's plans and the subsequent crackdown on their operations marked a turning point in the fight against unethical memory trade. Yet, as Elliot Carson and Maria Vasquez celebrated their victory, they remained acutely aware that the battle was far from over. The shadowy network that had backed Victor Kane and orchestrated countless other schemes still had its claws deep within the industry. One name kept resurfacing in their investigations: Elias Winter, a reclusive billionaire with ties to numerous technological and pharmaceutical companies. Winter was rumored to be the true puppet master behind the consortium, pulling strings from the shadows. If they were to dismantle the consortium completely, they had to go after Winter. Elliot, Maria, and their allies gathered in the safe house to strategize. Dr. Evelyn Park, Senator James Roberts, Leo, and Nia Harper, now fully recovered, joined the meeting. The atmosphere was charged with a sense of urgency and determination. Elliot began, Elias Winter is our primary target. He's the one orchestrating everything from behind the scenes. We need to gather enough evidence to bring him down. Nia nodded. Winter is notoriously paranoid. He operates from a private estate, heavily guarded and fortified. Getting to him won't be easy. Leo pulled up a holographic map of Winter's estate. I've been digging into his security systems. It's a fortress. Advanced surveillance, armed guards, and biometric locks. We'll need a sophisticated plan to infiltrate. Senator Roberts leaned forward. We'll also need to ensure that once we have the evidence, it's irrefutable and ready for public disclosure. Winter's influence is vast, and he'll have powerful allies ready to protect him. Dr. Park added, I've reached out to a few trusted colleagues who are willing to help. They're experts in neurotechnology and can assist in analyzing any data we recover. Maria, ever the pragmatist, summed it up. We need a plan that covers all angles. Infiltration, extraction of evidence, and immediate dissemination to the public and authorities. Let's break down the steps. The team spent the next few hours meticulously planning the operation. Leo would handle the digital infiltration, disabling security systems and providing real-time guidance. Elliot and Maria would lead the ground team, infiltrating the estate and securing the evidence. Nia and Dr. Park would be on standby to analyze any data recovered, while Senator Roberts coordinated the media and legal response. The night of the operation, the team moved with precision. Leo had managed to create a temporary blind spot in Winter's surveillance, giving them a narrow window to breach the estate's perimeter. Elliot and Maria, dressed in black and equipped with the latest tech, slipped through the shadows and approached the main building. Using a combination of stealth and Leo's guidance, they bypassed guards and security measures, making their way to Winter's private office. The room was a high-tech command center, filled with monitors, data terminals, and secure storage units. Maria quickly accessed one of the terminals, inserting a device provided by Leo to download Winter's files. Elliot kept watch, his senses heightened for any sign of danger. The download was slow, each second stretching into an eternity. Just as the download completed, the door burst open, and armed guards stormed in. Elliot and Maria sprang into action, fighting off the guards with a combination of combat skills and advanced gadgets. It was a fierce battle, but they managed to incapacitate the guards and secure the evidence. With the data in hand, they made their way out of the estate, narrowly avoiding additional patrols. Leo's digital prowess provided a clear path, and they escaped into the night, adrenaline pumping through their veins. Back at the safe house, Dr. Park and Nia immediately began analyzing the data. What they found was explosive, detailed records of Winter's operations, including financial transactions, communications with key figures in the consortium, and plans for future initiatives. It was damning evidence that tied Winter directly to the illegal activities of the consortium. Senator Roberts acted quickly, presenting the evidence to the authorities and coordinating with media outlets to ensure the information was widely disseminated. The public outcry was immediate and intense, demanding justice and accountability. Law enforcement agencies moved swiftly, raiding Winter's estate and arresting him on multiple charges. The media coverage was relentless, exposing Winter's schemes and the extent of his influence. It was a significant blow to the consortium, sending a clear message that their reign of secrecy and manipulation was coming to an end. As the dust settled, Elliot and Maria reflected on their journey. They had faced incredible odds, battled powerful enemies, and emerged victorious. But they knew their mission wasn't over. The memory trade industry was still fraught with potential for abuse, and they had to remain vigilant. Elliot looked at his team, their bond stronger than ever. We've come a long way, but we need to keep fighting. The future of memory technology depends on us. Maria nodded, her determination unwavering. We'll keep pushing for ethical standards and transparency. We've made a difference, and we'll continue to do so. Dr. Park, Senator Roberts, Leo, and Nia all voiced their agreement. They had become a formidable force, united in their mission to protect the integrity of memory technology and ensure it was used for the betterment of humanity. With Elias Winter behind bars and the consortium's network in disarray, they had won a significant victory. But they knew the road ahead would be challenging, filled with new threats and obstacles. Yet, with their collective expertise, determination, and unwavering commitment to justice, they were ready to face whatever came next. The fight for ethical memory technology was far from over, but they were prepared to lead the charge. Together, they would shape a future where memories were a source of empowerment, not exploitation. Chapter 8: Echoes of Betrayal. With Elias Winter behind bars and the consortium's operations severely crippled, Elliot Carson, Maria Vasquez, and their team found themselves at a crucial juncture. Their victory had been significant, but they knew the remnants of the consortium would not simply disappear. There were still powerful figures and hidden agendas at play, and the fight for ethical memory technology was far from over. The safe house had become their nerve center, a hub of activity where they planned their next moves. Dr. Evelyn Park and Nia Harper continued to analyze the data they had recovered, searching for any remaining threads of the consortium's influence. Senator James Roberts worked tirelessly to push forward legislative reforms, while Leo kept a vigilant eye on digital networks, looking for any signs of resurgence. One evening, as the team gathered to review their progress, Leo spoke up. "I've been tracking some unusual activity. There's a surge in encrypted communications among known associates of the consortium. It's as if they're regrouping." Maria frowned. "They're trying to rebuild. We need to hit them hard before they can gain momentum." Elliot nodded in agreement. "Leo, can you pinpoint the source of these communications?" Leo tapped a few keys on his laptop, bringing up a map on the screen. "There's a high concentration of activity in an industrial area on the outskirts of the city. It's a cluster of abandoned warehouses and factories, a perfect place to hide." Nia looked thoughtful. "If they're using that location, they must be planning something significant. We need to find out what it is and stop them." The team quickly devised a plan to infiltrate the industrial area and gather intelligence on the consortium's activities. They would split into two groups. Elliot, Maria, and Nia would go on the ground to investigate, while Leo and Dr. Park provided remote support, monitoring communications and coordinating with law enforcement if necessary. As night fell, the team moved into position. Elliot, Maria, and Nia navigated through the maze of abandoned buildings, their senses heightened for any sign of danger. The industrial area was eerily silent, the only sound being the crunch of gravel underfoot. They approached a large warehouse, its windows dark and its doors secured. Elliot signaled for the team to spread out and look for an entry point. Maria found a side door that had been recently used, the lock still warm to the touch. She nodded to Elliot and Nia, and they quietly slipped inside. The interior of the warehouse was vast and cluttered with old machinery and crates. They moved cautiously, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. As they reached the center of the building, they heard voices coming from a nearby room. They approached slowly, peering through a crack in the door. Inside, a group of people were gathered around a table, discussing their plans. At the head of the table was a man they recognized from their research, Nicholas Verhoeven, a high-ranking member of the consortium. He was giving orders, outlining a plan to regain control of the memory trade industry through a new, untraceable memory module. Elliot motioned for the team to retreat. They needed to report this to Leo and Dr. Park immediately. As they turned to leave, Nia accidentally knocked over a metal pipe, the clang echoing through the warehouse. The voices inside the room went silent, and footsteps approached the door. Elliot, Maria, and Nia ducked behind a stack of crates, holding their breath as the door swung open. A guard stepped out, looking around suspiciously. After a tense moment, he returned to the room, closing the door behind him. Elliot whispered, "We need to get out of here and alert the others. Let's move." They retraced their steps, slipping out of the warehouse and back into the night. Once they were a safe distance away, Elliot contacted Leo and Dr. Park, relaying what they had discovered. Leo's voice crackled through the earpiece. "I'll notify law enforcement and send them the coordinates. We need to act fast before they can relocate." Dr. Park added, "I'll prepare an analysis of the new memory module based on what we know. If we can disrupt their production, we can prevent it from reaching the market." As the team regrouped at the safe house, they received word that law enforcement was en route to the warehouse. The raid was swift and decisive, resulting in the capture of Nicholas Verhoeven and several of his associates. The new memory module was confiscated, and its technology analyzed by Dr. Park and her colleagues. The data they uncovered was alarming. The new module had the potential to alter memories in real time, making it a powerful tool for manipulation and control. If it had reached the market, the consequences would have been catastrophic. Senator Roberts held a press conference the next day, highlighting the team's efforts and the dangers posed by the consortium's technology. Public awareness and support for legislative reforms grew, adding momentum to their cause. Despite the success of the operation, Elliot couldn't shake a lingering sense of unease. The consortium had been dealt another blow, but the depth of their network and the extent of their influence remained a concern. They had to stay vigilant and prepared for whatever came next. As the team gathered to debrief, Maria spoke up. "We've made significant progress, but we need to keep pushing. There are still too many unknowns, and we can't let our guard down." Elliot nodded. "Agreed. We'll continue to monitor their activities and work on securing the memory trade industry. This fight isn't over." Dr. Park added, "We should also focus on developing new safeguards and ethical guidelines for memory technology. Prevention is just as important as reaction." Nia chimed in, "And we need to build stronger alliances with other ethical memory traders and scientists. The more united we are, the better we can protect against future threats." With their resolve strengthened, the team recommitted to their mission. The road ahead was uncertain and filled with challenges, but they were ready to face them head-on. The fight for ethical memory technology was far from over, but with their combined expertise, determination, and unwavering commitment to justice, they were prepared to lead the charge. The echoes of betrayal and manipulation would not silence their efforts. They would continue to expose the darkness and protect the future of memory technology, ensuring it was used for the betterment of humanity. Chapter 9. A Tangled Web. The consortium's activities had been severely disrupted, and with the capture of Nicholas Verhoeven, Elliot Carson, Maria Vasquez, and their team felt a measure of relief. However, they knew their victory was not yet complete. The memory trade industry was still vulnerable to manipulation, and the remnants of the consortium were likely planning their next move. Days after Verhoeven's arrest, Elliot received an encrypted message from an unknown source. The message contained a series of coordinates and a single line of text. "The spider weaves its web anew. Follow the thread." Elliot shared the message with his team at the safe house. "Someone wants us to investigate these coordinates. It could be a trap, but it might also lead us to more members of the consortium." Maria examined the coordinates. "These locations span across different cities. We'll need to split up and investigate each one." Dr. Park nodded. "I'll stay here and coordinate from the safe house. Leo and I can provide support and monitor communications." Senator Roberts added, "I'll continue working on legislative measures and public awareness. We need to ensure that any new developments are addressed quickly and transparently." The team divided the coordinates among themselves, each taking a different location. Elliot headed to New York, Maria to Los Angeles, Nia to Chicago, and Leo to Miami. They would rendezvous after gathering as much information as possible. Elliot's destination was a dilapidated building in a forgotten corner of New York City. The exterior showed signs of neglect, but the security measures in place suggested something more significant lay within. Elliot cautiously approached, using his experience as a memory detective to bypass the surveillance and gain entry. Inside, he found a hidden lab, filled with advanced equipment and files. As he sifted through the documents, he discovered plans for a new memory manipulation device, one that could remotely alter memories without the need for physical contact. This technology, if deployed, would give the consortium unprecedented control over individuals' minds. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Maria followed her own lead. Her coordinates took her to an upscale office building, where she posed as a potential investor to gain access. She managed to infiltrate a high-security floor where she uncovered evidence of financial transactions and communications linking several prominent figures to the consortium. In Chicago, Nia's investigation led her to a warehouse on the outskirts of the city. She found a covert operation producing counterfeit memory modules designed to be sold on the black market. The counterfeit modules were dangerous, capable of causing severe mental harm to users. Leo, in Miami, tracked his coordinates to a seemingly abandoned mansion. Inside, he discovered a hidden room filled with servers and communication equipment. He managed to hack into the system and found encrypted files containing information on the consortium's remaining operatives and their plans for resurgence. Each team member returned to the safe house with their findings, the pieces of the puzzle slowly coming together. As they shared their discoveries, a clearer picture of the consortium's strategy emerged. They were not only attempting to rebuild but were also developing new, more insidious technologies to control and exploit memories. Dr. Park analyzed the data from the memory manipulation device Elliot had found. This device is incredibly advanced. If the consortium manages to deploy it, they could manipulate memories on a massive scale, affecting entire populations without anyone knowing. Senator Roberts looked grim. We need to stop this before it gets out of hand. I'll push for immediate action on this in Congress and work with law enforcement to launch coordinated raids. Leo added, we also need to find and neutralize the operatives mentioned in the files I found. They're the ones driving this resurgence. Elliot nodded. We'll need to act quickly and decisively. Let's plan a series of coordinated strikes to dismantle their operations and prevent them from deploying this new technology. The team spent the next few days meticulously planning their next moves. They coordinated with trusted allies in law enforcement and cybersecurity, ensuring they had the support needed for the complex operation. The goal was to hit multiple targets simultaneously, disrupting the consortium's activities and capturing key operatives. On the night of the operation, the team moved with precision and determination. Elliot led a raid on the hidden lab in New York, disabling the memory manipulation device and securing crucial evidence. Maria's team in Los Angeles exposed the financial networks and arrested several high-profile individuals linked to the consortium. Nia's team in Chicago shut down the counterfeit memory module operation, preventing further harm to unsuspecting users. Leo's efforts in Miami led to the capture of key operatives and the destruction of the consortium's communication hub. As the dust settled, the extent of their success became clear. The consortium had been dealt a significant blow, its infrastructure dismantled and its plans thwarted. The coordinated raids were a testament to the team's dedication and the strength of their alliances. Back at the safe house, they gathered to debrief and reflect on their achievements. Dr. Park, looking over the data they had recovered, spoke first. We've made incredible progress, but we need to remain vigilant. The consortium's influence is deeply rooted, and there may be more cells out there. Senator Roberts agreed. We'll continue to push for reforms and tighter regulations on memory technology. Public awareness is crucial to prevent future abuses. Maria, ever the realist, added, we also need to focus on healing the damage already done. There are countless victims out there who need our help. Elliot looked around at his team, filled with a sense of pride and determination. We've come a long way, but our work is far from over. We'll continue to fight for a future where memory technology is used responsibly and ethically. Together, we can make a difference. As they prepared for the next phase of their mission, the team knew that their fight against the consortium had entered a new chapter. They had struck a powerful blow, but the battle for ethical memory technology was ongoing. With unwavering resolve, they would continue to protect the future of memories, ensuring they remained a source of empowerment and not exploitation. Chapter 10. Unraveling the Conspiracy. With each victory against the consortium, Elliot Carson, Maria Vasquez, and their team grew more determined to root out every last trace of corruption within the memory trade industry. Yet, despite their relentless efforts, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were only scratching the surface of a much larger conspiracy. As they regrouped at the safe house to review their latest findings, a sense of urgency hung in the air. Dr. Evelyn Park had been analyzing the data recovered from their recent operations, and what she had uncovered sent chills down their spines. These recent attacks weren't just random acts of desperation, Dr. Park began. They were part of a coordinated effort to destabilize the memory trade industry and seize control. Maria's brow furrowed. But who would benefit from such chaos? Dr. Park pulled up a series of interconnected diagrams on the screen. I believe there's a hidden hand orchestrating these events, a mastermind behind the scenes pulling the strings. Elliot studied the diagrams, his mind racing. If there's someone behind all of this, they must have a motive. And they're not acting alone. Nia leaned forward, her expression grave. We need to find out who this mastermind is and what their endgame is. If we don't, they'll keep coming at us, using whatever means necessary to achieve their goals. Leo nodded. Agreed. But uncovering the truth won't be easy. Whoever's behind this is skilled at covering their tracks. Senator James Roberts spoke up. We'll need to leverage every resource at our disposal. From intelligence agencies to tech experts, we must cast a wide net to uncover the extent of this conspiracy. The team began to formulate a plan, each member contributing their expertise to the effort. They would launch a multi-pronged investigation, delving into financial records, digital communications, and human intelligence networks to trace the conspiracy back to its source. Elliot and Maria would lead the ground investigation, following leads and gathering evidence from key players within the memory trade industry. Nia and Leo would focus on digital forensics, analyzing encrypted communications and infiltrating secure networks for any trace of the mastermind's activities. Dr. Park and Senator Roberts would coordinate with government agencies and legal experts to ensure they had the necessary resources and support for their investigation. As they set their plan in motion, Elliot couldn't shake the feeling of unease that gnawed at him. The consortium's recent actions had been bold and calculated, suggesting a level of coordination and planning that went beyond what they had previously encountered. Their investigation led them down a labyrinth of false leads and dead ends, but they persisted, driven by a determination to uncover the truth. They encountered resistance at every turn, facing threats and obstacles from shadowy figures determined to keep their secrets hidden. Yet, with each piece of evidence they uncovered and each connection they made, the puzzle began to take shape. They discovered a network of influential individuals with ties to various industries, all working together to manipulate the memory trade for their own gain. As they closed in on the mastermind behind the conspiracy, they uncovered a shocking revelation. The true puppet master was none other than a powerful multinational corporation with vast resources and a global reach. The corporation had been manipulating the memory trade industry for years, using it as a tool to further their own agenda and maintain their dominance in the market. Their ultimate goal was to control the flow of information and influence public opinion on a massive scale. With this revelation, Elliot, Maria, and their team knew they were facing their most formidable adversary yet. The corporation had the power and influence to crush anyone who dared to oppose them, but they were undeterred. Armed with the truth and fueled by their unwavering commitment to justice, they prepared to confront the corporation head-on. The stakes were higher than ever, but they were determined to expose the conspiracy and hold those responsible accountable for their actions. As they geared up for the final showdown, Elliot knew that their fight was about more than just memories. It was about protecting the very fabric of society from corruption and manipulation. And with their team united in purpose, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As Elliot Carson, Maria Vasquez, and their team delved deeper into the web of deceit surrounding the memory trade industry, the true extent of the conspiracy began to emerge. The multinational corporation at the heart of the operation had woven a tangled web of influence, extending its reach into every aspect of society. With the evidence they had gathered, the team prepared to confront the corporation head-on. They knew they were facing a formidable adversary, one with the power and resources to crush anyone who stood in their way. But they were undeterred, fueled by their unwavering commitment to justice and the truth. Elliot led the charge, rallying his team with a sense of determination and purpose. We've come too far to back down now. The corporation may be powerful, but we have something they don't: the truth on our side. Maria nodded in agreement. We'll need to expose their operations and bring their crimes to light. It won't be easy, but it's the only way to stop them. Nia chimed in. We should leverage our connections and allies to gather as much evidence as possible. The more we have, the harder it will be for the corporation to sweep this under the rug. Leo, ever the strategist, added, we should also be prepared for pushback. The corporation won't go down without a fight, and they'll do whatever it takes to protect their interests. With their plan in place, the team set out to gather evidence and build their case against the corporation. They worked tirelessly, following leads and uncovering new layers of the conspiracy with each passing day. It was a race against time, with the corporation tightening its grip on the memory trade industry and moving to silence anyone who threatened their dominance. As they delved deeper into the corporation's operations, they encountered resistance at every turn. Their adversaries were ruthless, employing intimidation tactics and leveraging their influence to obstruct the investigation. But Elliot and his team refused to be deterred, pressing forward with unwavering determination. Their efforts began to bear fruit as they uncovered a trail of corruption and deceit leading straight to the highest levels of the corporation. Documents revealed backroom deals, manipulation of regulatory bodies, and even attempts to sabotage competing technologies, all in the name of maintaining control over the memory trade industry. Armed with this damning evidence, Elliot and his team prepared to take their findings public. They knew the risks were high, but they were prepared to face whatever consequences came their way. The truth had to be exposed, no matter the cost. As the team made their final preparations, Elliot addressed them with a sense of resolve. "This is our moment. We have the evidence we need to bring down the corporation and expose the truth to the world. But we must be prepared for the backlash that will surely follow." Maria nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "We've come too far to let fear hold us back now. The corporation may be powerful, but the truth is a force they can't ignore." With their resolve hardened, Elliot and his team launched their expose, releasing the evidence they had gathered to the public and the media. The response was immediate and explosive, with outrage spreading like wildfire as the extent of the corporation's crimes became clear. The corporation scrambled to contain the fallout, launching a desperate campaign to discredit Elliot and his team. But the truth could not be silenced, and as more evidence came to light, public pressure mounted on governments and regulatory bodies to take action. In the end, justice prevailed as the corporation was held accountable for its actions. Executives were arrested, assets seized, and reforms implemented to prevent such abuses from happening again. It was a victory for Elliot, Maria, and their team, a triumph of truth over deception. As they celebrated their hard-won victory, Elliot couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in what they had accomplished. They had faced seemingly insurmountable odds, but through perseverance and determination, they had exposed the corruption at the heart of the memory trade industry and ensured that justice was served. But even as they basked in the glow of their success, Elliot knew that their work was far from over. The fight for ethical memory technology would continue, and new challenges would inevitably arise. Yet, with their team united in purpose and their resolve unwavering, he was confident that they would face whatever the future held together. Chapter 11: The Legacy of Truth. With the multinational corporation behind bars and the memory trade industry undergoing significant reforms, Elliot Carson, Maria Vasquez, and their team found themselves at a crossroads. Their fight against corruption and exploitation had brought about real change, but they knew that their work was far from over. As they gathered at the safe house to reflect on their journey, Elliot couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in what they had accomplished. "We've come a long way since we first embarked on this mission, but our work is far from done." Maria nodded, her gaze firm. "There are still challenges ahead, but we've proven that the power of truth and justice can overcome even the most entrenched corruption." Nia added, "We've laid the groundwork for a future where memory technology is used responsibly and ethically, but we must remain vigilant to ensure that our hard-won progress isn't undone." Leo, ever the pragmatist, spoke up. "There will always be those who seek to exploit technology for their own gain. We must stay ahead of the curve and adapt to new threats as they arise." Senator James Roberts, who had been instrumental in their fight for legislative reforms, chimed in, "Our success has shown what can be achieved when we work together toward a common goal. Let's continue to build on that momentum and push for a future where ethics and integrity are at the forefront of technological advancement." Dr. Evelyn Park, who had provided invaluable expertise throughout their journey, added, "We must also remember the victims of the consortium's crimes and work to support them as they rebuild their lives. Our fight isn't just about uncovering the truth. It's about ensuring justice for those who have been harmed. As they looked toward the future, Elliot felt a renewed sense of purpose. Their journey had been filled with challenges and setbacks, but it had also been marked by moments of triumph and solidarity. Together, they had exposed the dark underbelly of the memory trade industry and paved the way for a brighter, more ethical future. As they prepared to embark on the next phase of their mission, Elliot knew that their legacy would be one of courage, determination, and unwavering commitment to truth and justice. The fight for ethical memory technology would continue, but with their team united in purpose and their resolve stronger than ever, he was confident that they would prevail. And so, as they stood on the threshold of a new chapter in their journey, Elliot and his team faced the future with hope and determination, ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead and build a better world for future generations.